The entire thing is to make sure that there's an envelope, a cushion of respect, of care, of love, of thankfulness, when those soldiers come back and they step off that plane. And it's everything. It's everything from their, mental health to training to jobs. I think it's across the spectrum. So I think we can do a better job of it. You gotta have leaders in there that recognize that, I think the hardest thing to do in any organization, I think, and for the test of a true leader is to how well they can define the problem. Right? That's the first thing you've got to do, is to be able to define the problem. And until that occurs, we're just going to be chasing our tail. But the vets for me is that's something that, and I know whoever is, I've had that discussion with both candidates, and they know that certainly the VA is something that I'm very passionate about. And here's another thing, look, and this goes, and it's all tied together, right? That's the thing, it's all web, it's all tied. We talk about, having businesses to come to Wisconsin. Well, they gotta wanna come to Wisconsin. It's gotta have a workforce that's ready for them. Look at the, I'd like to, you look at the states that are defined by, Florida, it's got its retirees. There are many states that don't have state income tax, and there's a reason why they don't have state income tax, because they have a revenue stream from something else, or their corporate income tax is through the roof. I'd love to make Wisconsin, what if nationwide we were able to make Wisconsin, known as the most vet-friendly state? That we're, you get these kids that are graduating, high school here, they're joining the Air Force, the, Army or the Marine Corps. They're going away for 4 years, and whether they're coming back or not, who knows, but most likely not. Kids graduating college, taking commissions, going in as officers, the same thing. Let's create an environment where vets that are born and raised in Tennessee know that they want to come to Wisconsin because we're the most vet-friendly thing. So we're bringing in some youth, hard-working, disciplined, that can help push up some of those job requirements that the companies have. It's all interconnected.
That's a great idea.
We're known as the welfare state.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yeah. Great.
You're right, we are.
Yeah.
And that's we've got to. I'm willing to break my back to help somebody who wants to help themselves. I really am. But if you're not, then in my opinion, you're either helping to move something forward, or you're just watching it go. And I really don't have time for individuals that just watch it.
Another question that, just listening to you talk about the VA system, it sort of makes me flash a little bit on another question, which is, where do you stand on federal monies coming into the state?
Well, we give monies to the federal government, so I think that monies coming back in is I'd rather would not have given so much money to the federal government to fund so many of the entities that exist at the federal level that aren't within the Constitution. But until that's changed, then I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that we get as much money as possible back from the federal government that we're sending up.
Interesting. What about, one of the things I know that we've talked about in this group to no small degree is the fact that the federal government loves to use those monies as a pistol to our heads, so that when they want us to do something, they say, well, you do this, or you don't do this, or we withhold this chunk of funding from you. What would be your, like, if that were to happen, you say whoever was governor keeled over, and you were suddenly in the governor's chair.
Or got appointed into a presidential cabinet.
Right. Right. Just saying. Right.
Just saying.
Right.
Just saying.
Just saying. Right. Say that happened, and you found yourself in the governor's chair, and
Okay.
you found yourself in a situation where the federal government was saying something along those lines to you. What would your response be?
Well, I think it would have to depend on, it would definitely be situational. But if the government, I am a firm believer in that I would stand for the state's rights versus federal 99% of the time. and again, here we're gonna dance back to your answer, but, you know, there are some states, and I think Oklahoma, a guy by the name of Key, there's some states that have actually come up with a very interesting concept. And I'm not advocating, I'm just putting this out there, that it's an idea that's out there, where they have they're advocating creating, a tax escrow account. Any of you guys heard this concept? This tax escrow account, where the federal budget, you know, and then the annual taxes, and basically your tax dollars go up to the state, and it gets collected in this escrow account. And a committee, and let's not debate or argue over who makes up this committee, because that would be another, you know, fun thing to do, but at some point, a committee, you know, bipartisan or whatever, but basically they evaluate the constitutionality of the federal budget. And those budget requirements that do fall under the Constitution, the monies get allotted to it. The ones that don't are kept in that escrow account and aren't sent forward to the federal government, and then get pushed back down, you know, either to the counties or back to the taxpayers themselves. You know, that's a
Wow.
big,
Bold.
revolutionary, bold concept, you know, and that thing would be an immediate, I mean, that thing would be getting fought, you know, everywhere. But I think we are, I'm not advocating, you know, let's all just not pay our taxes and force the federal government to listen to us again, but we are nearing a point where that well, we're not nearing, we're already there. So when you pose that question to me, it's Governor Collins who's sitting at the desk, and they say, part of your budget, you know what, I'll answer this. I think we need to start making sure as a state that we're becoming less and less and less reliant on the federal government. We have to. As a people, both as a character and as financially. I mean, look what happened in Greece. You know, I mean, I talked about it in that convention speech. I mean, you know, we can go this way, or we can go this way. You know, or we can say, you know, all right, great, let's open up the coffers. You know, free ATMs everywhere. Let's just empty it out and give everybody the money that they want. You know, there's going to be a point where there's no more money, zero. And you look at a culture and a country that has been living on entitlement. Excuse me, and look what happened in Greece. I mean, it was chaos. It was riots in the streets because they were told that, you know, they were going to be slashing, you know. So my answer would be, hopefully by that point we have gotten, as a state, we need to have a rainy day fund, right? I think. We were definitely at a point years ago where we could have probably saved some money as a state, but we didn't. And we just spent.
Yeah.
But I think that I would say probably from day one, and I think that the next governor certainly recognizes the need to have that. We need to have that rainy day fund so that we're not going to be completely put under the heel of the federal government if necessary. And when there's something like the economy drops out like we had right now, rather than forcing some of the state, you know, some of the school boards to start jacking up property taxes because they need to make up the revenue somehow, but that there is something that's there for that rainy day. You know, I'm not going to tell you that I would say absolutely no. You know, it would depend on what the situation is, because there's until we can figure out how to sustain ourselves, and a large, you know, 25% of, you know, a large chunk is coming from those federal dollars back to us. You know, there's a decision point to fall on your sword or not. You know, and I'd say that I'm certainly not unwilling, or I'd have no compunction falling on my sword for the right reasons, but it would have to be the right reasons. You know, if we were at a spot where we're at right now, where, you know, it's going to be, you know, then it's okay if I don't take those federal monies back, I'm still going to have the budgetary requirements over the next year and a half. I'm probably going to have to raise taxes, you know, in some form or fashion to make up those monies. If I don't have the ability to start cutting the equivalency of what the federal government is holding over my head, you know, then I've got to make up that money somehow, right? So and I know that doesn't answer the question probably to what you'd like, but number one, I'd say let's become more self-sufficient. Let's get away from, you know, needing the federal government to turn back to us. Two, if we can get to a point where we're not spending $35 billion a year, $70 billion every 2 years, and we're not having to borrow, you know, billions of dollars every year to actually meet that goal, then we're not going to be, I think, this isn't a year solution, but I think 4 years, 5 years, 6 years of actually running a state the way we run our homes, right? I mean, general accounting principles, oh my goodness, I mean, but let's actually treat the state coffers like our own. I think we could feasibly get away from having to rely on the federal government.